Bog Rosemary has the distinction of being Offaly's county flower. At least it was the species chosen for the County Crest because it is especially a characteristic of the raised bogs, which are probably Offaly's most distinctive natural habitat. It's a low-growing plant, not always easy to find because it's often hidden in the heather. But if you look at the individual plant, here are two flowers. If you look at the individual flower, especially with the handle end, you can see that it's delicate pink in colour. This is the corolla. This little urn-like structure here is the corolla, formed by the five fused petals. Behind that you can see 5 delicate little sepals of the same colour, and unusually the peduncle, which is the technical term for the stalk of the flower, is also the same colour as the flower itself. And notice the way it's pendulous, it's hanging down with a quite narrow opening here. This means that when it's visited by its pollinators, and it's pollinated by bumblebees, the bee has to insert its head through a very narrow opening here, and that opening is blocked by the stigma. So if it's carrying pollen from another flower, it's going to immediately transfer that pollen onto the receptive stigma here. Now, as it then probes further into the little inverted bell, the urn of the corolla here, halfway down, it's going to encounter the stamens. Very strange looking structures, they're quite hairy with broad bases, etc. But the most distinctive thing about them is that each of them has a long bristle, a kind of a latch attached to it. And the stamens are so positioned and balanced within the corolla tube that as the bee probes further into it, inevitably it's going to come in contact with those latches, which act like levers and tip the pollen from the anthers onto the head and front of the back of the bee. So that as it withdraws, having got its fill of nectar, it's going to be liberally dusted with pollen, which you can then transfer to hopefully the next flower that it's going to visit. The English name of the plant, Bog Rosemary, comes from the supposed resemblance of the leaves to garden rosemary. But there's a lovely tale attached to the scientific Latin name, which is Andromeda. The plant was given its name, its scientific name, in the late 18th century by the great Swedish scientist Linnaeus, who first saw the plant growing in pools in the bogs of Lapland. And in his diary and his field notes, he tells us that the sight reminded him of the story in Greek mythology of Andromeda, beautiful girl chained to a rock in the middle of the ocean, about to be devoured by the Kraken, the mythical sea monster, until she was rescued by Perseus. And in his field notes, he left us a lovely drawing of the event. Here she is, chained to the rock, and there's the miserable looking kraken here, and here's the plant itself with, I presume that's a newt around it. There's a nice picture by Jane Feehan of the plant itself, and you can see this is from the Wildflowers of Offaly. There's a lot more information on most of the plants that we're describing in these presentations in the Wildflowers of Offaly, which is readily available from the Heritage Office in Offaly County Council. And you can see, since Bog Rosemary is the county flower, we have rather gone to town with it. The frontispiece, the end papers there, you can see, has got 2 early drawings of the plant. There's the cross section of it. You can see pendulous flower. There are the 5 stamens with their little latches on the end. You see they're so positioned in the bell that the bee just has to rub against them as it comes in. There they are, drawn individually.